With Southampton in the FA Cup semi-finals this year, we've decided to take a special look back at the club's last semi-final win in the competition when Saints beat Watford 2-1 at Villa Park in 2003. There are, of course, plenty of fantastic memories from that afternoon. So who better to speak to than some of the players who actually featured in the game? Joining me to look back on that day are three of the players who made big contributions in the match: Michael Svensson, Brett Ormerod, and James Beattie. Well, firstly, guys, I imagine it's been a while since you've all seen each other. It must be nice to have the opportunity to catch up.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I've seen Beats on a picture for not long ago. We had a common friend who was coaching you coached with him in England, the Spanish guy.
Yeah.
But Brett, I haven't seen you for, I don't know, 15 years or.
Since
I know, mate.
It's semi-final at Villa Park.
Do you know what, Mick? I think last time I seen
Was that you?
You came up to Blackpool with Southampton. Remember?
That's right, yeah.
And I think we drew at Bloomfield, didn't we? I'd just gone back to Blackpool about 2009, I think it were.
2009?
Yeah, I think it was something like that.
Okay.
I'd gone back to Blackpool from Preston in 2009 and we played you. I think we drew at Bloomfield, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I think you didn't play that game. You were injured or you're on bench. You were
probably injured.
For you, Brett.
Yeah. Pardon?
Lucky for you.
I know.
Yeah, we're chasing you.
And Beats, the last time I seen Beats was obviously when you were with Monksy at Leeds and I was doing commentary for Radio Lancashire against Preston at Ellen Road.
Yeah.
So it's been too long, hasn't it? It's time flies, though, you know.
Yeah, unbelievable.
It's ridiculous how quick time goes.
Yeah, that's been a long while. Well, it's great to have you guys here, and obviously we're going to reminisce on a very special day for all of you, I'm sure. Obviously, we can see you getting on the coach here at St Mary's. What was the mood in camp like at this point when you were getting on the coach?
Sunglasses.
Chicken.
Yeah, but I think you can see with the people that are wishing as well and sending us off there. It was loads of anticipation. Bit of nerves, but really looking forward to going and playing in the FA Cup final. It was built up, not as much as the final was, but it was a massive build up to the game.
So obviously at this point you were 90 minutes away from the final. What was the atmosphere like at Villa Park, Michael?
Fantastic. I mean, especially now when you see it in like few years afterwards, it's amazing to see. But at that time, I personally don't really think about it, running around. And I think, well, I realized when I come to England about the FA Cup final, what it meant for the fans and how big it really was in England. Obviously, I knew about it in terms of outside UK, how big the cup was. But when you in it, it's massive. Fantastic.
Yeah, it certainly is. Now, Beats, this one's for you. I imagine you know why. The replay here shows the ball hitting your arm. Would that have been a penalty today with VAR?
I don't know. I think I've done a good job there at the back post. I have 2 to mark, so somebody's not marking someone.
Good analyze.
But yeah, probably that's going to VAR, and that's a penalty in today's game. But I don't know actually, because it's point blank. I'm going to defend myself here. It's point blank, and my arm is so. I've tried to move my arm away. So I don't know. Yeah, of course I'm going to say that. Yeah.
And you've just headed it over the bar there, Beats. How different is a game like this to a league game? Do you need a little bit more time to settle into the game before you're kind of fully up to speed?
Not really. That's just a bad cross. It was behind me, so I had to try and generate the power myself. But no, because of the crowd, it's a stadium that you played at before, Villa Park. But you mentioned before when we were coming out of the tunnel, the noise was just electric and it was deafening. But so far as the game is, when that whistle blows, you're down to business, and
yeah,
all that sort of stuff you just forget and you go into game mode.
Right, at this point, you seem to be playing with more confidence in the game as a team. You had a good hold of the game and you had a fair few chances. Did you feel like it could be your day?
I don't know. I remember being quite nervous before the game. But like Beat says, once the game kicks off, you just go into, game mode and you just switch off and you just try and get on with your job and just remember what the gaffer told you so he doesn't I'm here at half time. Which he used to
would
do
have done anyway.
So, yeah. So, especially when he used to get so irate and I couldn't understand what he was saying. And the more I said, what? He used to go mad at me, didn't he? So, yeah. I mean, it was a big occasion because obviously, we played at Villa Park all the time and usually you only have a little set of fans, don't you? But the atmosphere, I mean, coming out the tunnel, it made your ears stand on the back of your neck, didn't it? It was just unreal, to be honest. And you just try and get on with your job. And I think when we drew Watford, it was weird in a way because my friends and my family were like, oh, you've got a great chance of winning. But then the pressure is on because it's Watford, they're a league lower, so you should win. So that come with its own pressure, didn't it? If I remember. It was a bit of a funny feeling, really. It's not your average game. It's not your average game. But like Beat says, once the game kicks off, you just go into professional and you just get on with it and try and do what the gaffer wants you to do.
Well, Brett, we've just seen your goal there. What was going through your mind when the ball left Maz's foot?
It didn't really. I mean, I remember I've been on a pretty big goal drought. And I hadn't scored for quite a long time, and I hit the post and the bar a few times. I remember playing at Leeds and hitting the crossbar and just couldn't score for love nor money. And probably my confidence was a bit low coming into that game. And the header, I didn't even connect with it that well, I don't think. I could have put it more in a corner, but I just remember Anders and running down the line and Maz and just getting into the box. And I've got a great photo of it at home with me and Beats. Beats is jumping as well. As I'm editing it. It's a fantastic photo.
I think you might be looking at it right now if you have a little look at behind Beats.
Yeah, but it was, and I just remember it going in and the euphoria. It's like a ready Brett goal. You run off and the whole place erupts. And we were at our end anyway. We were at our fans' end anyway, and it was just, it was just absolute euphoria and just relief, really. I think for my part, just to think, that's because I've waited so long, and it went through not lack of trying. I think it's probably the longest I've ever gone in my career from not scoring a goal. So yeah, it was just total euphoria, I think.
Now, Michael, let's talk about Paul Jones because he obviously came in after Anthony Amy failed a late fitness test. That was the first time he featured in the FA Cup that season. How important was it to have that squad depth that you were able to call upon another international goalkeeper to step in?
Yeah, well, as I said, we trusted each other, and Jonah came in and we didn't think about it because obviously Anti's been playing most of the games, but Jonah was, like you said, he's on international level and huge experience. So it didn't change so much for us, and we didn't think about it at all. So we were 100% sure about Jonah going to do a good job, and so he did. It was the same in the final, but obviously we lost that one.
Well, let's talk about the second goal then, Beats. Did you try and claim this one?
Oh, cold all day long.
It was yours, Beats. It was for me. You scored, mate.
No, it's going through the replay there. I just thought, let's just cause as much disruption as we can, and if I'm not going to put it in, then one of them will put it in. But yeah, of course, I tried to claim it. It was a great run down the wing. Brett, like he just said there, there's absolutely nobody that could say that Brett didn't work hard, and we in them days, we were ultra fit, and that's why we sort of got a lot of goals in back end of games. Having run all over teams, we still had energy come 75 minutes. And Brett, I'd like to see our stats for games and stuff like that, but we used to just run them ragged, and then they used to get tired, and then we used to score.
Michael, let's talk about the Watford goal then. Obviously, minutes before the final whistle. How did you feel at that moment? And were you kind of worried that they could grab another?
I have to say, like the other guys said, that we were so fit and we had a confidence massive. And going into this semi-final, felt like we're going to win this. We were that's what my feeling was. And we were so confident that we can beat anybody. So in this game, obviously, it's a semi-final in this cup. Will be difficult, but as Beat said, we were so fit and we can go on and play 2 games if that has to be happen. So, but no, not really. I think we controlled the game. They had a few chances, but still we felt the confidence we're gonna deal with this without any problems.
You're kind of speaking of that fitness. I know from speaking to my dad that as a squad, Gordon Strachan worked you all extremely hard. And I think you remembered that pre-season before you got to the final was one of the most brutal you'd ever done. Would you put those fitness levels down as a factor in your success that season, Brett?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's probably the fittest I've ever been. Like Beat says, I mean, it'd be interesting nowadays because the game's obsessed with stats. And we used to get like, and I think Gordon Strachan was very much ahead of his time then. Prozone had just come in. He used to get a booklet off Speaky. What was his name? I forget.
Andy Spink.
And Spinky. And he used to get a booklet, didn't he, of ground covered and how many sprints you'd done and all that. And he was very much ahead of his time. But I remember the second season under Strachan. I remember being on holiday in Spain, and the last week of my holiday, I wouldn't drink because I was scared of going back into pre-season. A, because he fined us if you're overweight, and B, because he had all your times from the previous season on these stupid, horrible runs that he used to take us up to Scotland at St Andrews.
St Andrews, yeah.
Yeah, and from the last week of my holiday in Spain, I remember drinking water because I was that scared about the pre-season coming up. It would wake me up at night thinking, wow, it's one of the hardest pre-seasons I've ever done. And it is. I think the pre-season I did on the Strachan, albeit Alan Irving, which Beats will know, we did that at Blackburn, and we did it when he was manager at Preston. And another Scotsman, mad Scotsman, who was just obsessed with fitness. Probably the hardest pre-seasons to date. And I mean, I've got, my mates, I'm on holiday and I'm drinking pint of water on me last week because I was that scared of going back.
It sounds brutal, but it obviously paid off. And a question for both Brett and James. What made you click as a strike partnership?
Well, I mean, I knew James. Me and Beats were friends at Blackburn. We were apprentices at Blackburn, when Blackburn won the Premiership. And, so we've known each other a long, long time. But I remember I'd injured my ankle when I was apprentice at Blackburn. We only used to have one physio then. So Beats used to do my strappings for me. If he remembers, before games, because I was too scared to ask the physio because he was always too busy. And I just think, I don't know, I just think when we got there, it was like when I went down to there, Beats was a big part of me settling in, and it was just like I hadn't seen him for ages, obviously, when I went down there, but it was like, Beats is Beats. He's just got that, that personality that just drags you along, and he really helped me to settle down. And it was just like I hadn't missed him. I'd only seen him like a day before. It just sort of carried on from where it left off. And he was a big part of me because I'd never left Blackburn. When I went down there, me and my missus, we were both from Blackburn. We'd lived in Blackburn all our life. I had a little son, and I told her I was only going down for talks, and I ended up signing a 4.5-year deal. So, but I signed it before I actually told her. So I had to ring her up and say, well, we've and Southampton from Blackburn's as far as you can go before you hit water. So it was like, well, it's not just down straight. No, it's not over side of Burnley. It's a long way, and Beats was fantastic. He helped me settle in massively, and and I think the thing with Southampton is that there was such a good bunch of lads. I said before, there's no prima donnas, no big time players. Everyone really got in, and I think you had to be that kind of player. If you didn't put a shift in, you didn't really last at Southampton. Strachan for one wouldn't have you, but I think the lads, they demanded the minimum they demanded was hard work and endeavour, and I think that's where we got a success.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, it was certainly a joy to watch you all play alongside each other. Now, we can't have you all here now and not talk about the final. I mean, my memories from the day, all I can picture is that sea of yellow and blue. What are your memories from that day, James?
Probably still, disappointment because we didn't win, but the build up and everything to see the city in with the build up and all the press before the week before and all these appointments that you had and going to see this person and doing this interview, and it's quite difficult to focus really on what's important, and what was important was the game. And I think we did okay in the final. I remember going through, and I think I was about half a yard offside, and that would have been 1-0 and the same scoreline as the final 25 years previous, which Southampton won, but we got ruled offside, and then they just scored like a scrappy goal at the end. But probably the most memorable thing was even though Arsenal had won, all the fans had gone, because it was like, oh yeah, well, we just won the FA Cup again, we do it nearly every year or whatever, and all the Southampton fans had stayed. And the ovation they give us at the end, I think there's pictures of me, I think I was crying and, overcome with emotion, because we wanted to give the fans the victory and get it for ourselves. But they stayed like they had done all season and supported us, and they could see that we'd put everything into it, like Brett mentioned before. And we there was no real superstars in the team. We just all grafted together. But as a team, we were very good, and on a day we pulled out some magnificent results, and unfortunately, just on that day we couldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. It was still an extremely special day, though. For you, Michael, how much did you enjoy playing in this team then?
Well, best football of my life, and obviously most enjoyable time of, the life of football, because the bunch of lads you play with and have around you, like, it's easy to defend when you have Beats and Dead Brett in front of you, because they make sure the ball, it would be difficult for the back line to do build-up play, and the pressing was brilliant, and the work rate, you can always count on them for sure, and that's what I love about it. So and the final is probably the biggest regret in my life. I still think we should have beaten them for sure. I felt that we bit of margin on our side. We should have scored goals and won the game. The memories of the final was obviously, like Beats said, I have to say before the game, it's my biggest memory, because when we ran out for the warm-up, all our fans were there, just packed with yellow and blue, and all Arsenal seats were pretty much empty, and also they were there after the game. Massive, fantastic memories, but still it's a big regret.
And obviously the club have an opportunity to get there again this season. Brett, how much would you love to see the club back in the final?
I'd love to. I mean, the last final they were in, when they got beat off Man United, I watched that game and they got robbed. And like Michael says, in the FA Cup, I've watched it. It took me a long time to watch that game back, and I did, and that's the exact feeling I got. I felt we were a better team. I used to get dogged off in mates because I said, Thierry Henry was running it in the corners with like 10 minutes to go. And if you've got Arsenal, a team like Arsenal and a French world, one of the best strikers in the world running it in the corners in the last few minutes trying to waste time, you've done something right. And we just needed a bit of luck that day, and we didn't get it. So, it'd be fantastic for Southampton to get there again. They've been a bit up and down this season, but I do like the way they play. I think Ward-Prowse is, his local lad, but what a player. Danny Ings is a local lad as well. He did really well when he was up here at Burnley, even though me and, we don't like Burnley, do we, Beats? But, he's a fantastic player. And, it'd be fantastic for the city, because it's, for Southampton, the FA Cup, growing up as a kid, the FA Cup was the biggest game, in the 80s, everyone sat around the television at 3 o'clock watching. You know, I can recall, I think the first FA Cup I watched, I remember, was Everton Watford in '84. And I watched every one up until like 90s when, you know, and the whole family, and it was a massive occasion. Yeah, it's a fantastic thing. And the biggest regret I have after the game is I walked past the trophy and I never touched it. I don't feel like, I just thought I was that devastated. I never touched it. Meeting Bobby Robson was one because he was brilliant, but just touching that trophy, and you know, that's one of the biggest regrets. I think, why not just touch it? Because, you know, it's apart from the World Cup, it's the most famous trophy in the world, and as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it really is. And fingers crossed we'll have the opportunity to get back in the final. Now, huge thank you to Michael, Brett and James. So great to catch up. And thank you to you for watching at home. We hope you enjoyed reflecting on that match as much as we did.